right now we are having conflict between herders and farmers. Even in my constituency, an area called Gorika in Baruku location, Mr. Speaker, people and Maasais have brought cows all the way from Kajiado, all the way from Narok. They have invaded farms that had maize, Mr. Speaker, and the conflict is simmering, Mr. Speaker. I'll be looking forward for them to get to work and deal with these issues. Mr. Speaker, the issue of lands, and I want to allow the President that for the first time, Nakuru County and City have a CS nominee, a full cabinet secretary nominee, Mr. Speaker. It has not happened. And for the first time, we are represented by Zach Njero on this domain and in this nomination, Mr. Speaker. We are hoping that we will deal with the lands issues. We will deal with every sub-county getting a lands registry, Mr. Speaker. That is an issue we should push in this cabinet, Mr. Speaker. I am looking forward to the nominee for education, Mr. Speaker. Apart from CBC, we are dealing with teachers' issues, Mr. Speaker. The issue of TSC not working well with the Ministry of Education, having a push and pull, Mr. Speaker. The issue of hardship allowances that I tried to push for some areas, especially in Nakuru, in my area, which is a semi-arid area, Mr. Speaker. We want that reclassification done by the CS of Education, Mr. Speaker. But on the issue of the nominee, Penina Malonza, Mr. Speaker, we must look at the law as it is, Mr. Speaker. Article 152 of the Constitution does not stipulate the requirements of what a cabinet secretary should be, and I think it's the role of this House, Mr. Speaker, that we get, because we have done it for governors, we have done it for the president, we have even done it for MCAs, but we have not done it for cabinet secretaries. So to say that you don't like the way I look or how I behave or how I talk, Mr. Speaker, cannot be a qualification to disqualify this nominee, Mr. Speaker. So I'm looking forward to the amendment as it comes to this floor, has been promised by some of the members, Mr. Speaker, that we ensure that this list of CS nominees passes as it is, Mr. Speaker. But because of time, Mr. Speaker, the only other issue I will touch on, I'm looking for the CS Treasury now to deal with the issue of release of NGCDF, Mr. Speaker. We are here in this house, we are having issues. It's that term, children are in school, we have Form 4 sitting for exams, we have them at home, they are not even able to put a meal on the table, and yet they are home for school fees, Mr. Speaker. We will be looking forward for the CS Treasury to ensure the timely release of NGCDF for the last, for this financial year, Mr. Speaker. And because of the concern of members, Mr. Speaker, and having sat where you have sat, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to take more time. I want to support this list and give more members, and I hope that we can be magnanimous enough. Even if the time is 10 minutes, you don't have to take all of it. Let us take as few minutes as possible so that we give as many members to contribute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thanks a lot, the MP for Gilgil. That's very, very, very generous. The MP for Bomet East.
Now I've been recognized and heard that I'm in this house. My people in Bomet have been complaining every weekend. I go home, they normally ask me, people are talking, and what have you been doing? You go and sleep there, we see you in the TV, and you're not contributing anything. Thank you very much. And I think I've now learned the game. Regarding this, the motion in place, Mr. Speaker, regarding the approval and appointment of cabinet secretaries, the Attorney General and Secretary to the Cabinet, I would like to go straight to the point of contention, that is Madam Penina Malonza, whereby the President had included her in the cabinet list. I would like to say, Mr. Speaker, some of us have come from corporate sectors whereby some people have been working there and you never hear them talking. This lady was a deputy governor. And what we need to ask ourselves is, Kitui County, did it perform during our time or it failed? Those are the pertinent questions which we need to be asking ourselves. There are some people who are trying to talk too much, but when it comes to service delivery, it is very difficult for them to articulate issues or to deliver. And I think Penina Malonza should not be left to the lynch mob. I want to say we should include her in the list of these cabinet secretaries who have been passed. The president nominating her has gone a long way, because we know where the lady comes from was not supporting the Kenya Kwanza government. And I want to say the president did well by trying to diversify and trying to unite the Kenyan nation by even appointing people from the areas which was perceived to be opposition to the government. And I find it very difficult and to understand the opposition members when they just come and start trying to oppose one of their own. We are trying to help you. This is a lady which is coming from the area whereby it was supporting your side. And we want to do this to try and unite this nation by even trying to bring people from those areas which is perceived not to have supported us. So the acumen, Mr. Speaker, I want to be protected from the people who are making noise from behind my back.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable Dwale.
Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Order.
Mr. Speaker, as I complete.
Yes, what's your point of order, honorable member?
Mr. Speaker, is the honorable member in order to stand before the House and allege that it's the opposition members who are fighting their own members, while the committee, the whole committee adopted that Honorable Malonza is not fit to serve. Is the honorable member in order to mislead this House? It was a unanimous decision of the committee. So, Mr. Speaker, I would encourage him to read more about the recommendations of the committee.
Thank you very much. You have been heard, and I want to tell you, it is the House to decide. We are going to decide this in this House. And by virtue of that committee, let me tell you, it is an extension of this House. And I want to say, I want to give a very good example, Mr. Speaker. Personally, I've been working in the aviation industry, and if I can bring to this House what I learned from that sector, the transport sector. Kenya Airways has been underperforming as compared to other carriers. And what we have seen as what the government of the then has been doing is trying to impose some the so-called technocrats to come and manage or head our airline, of which they've never delivered. We need to emulate some other carriers or other countries which they've made their airlines to be very successful, and not try to import people and come and lead our corporate sectors and not changing anything and paying millions of money in terms of salaries. What I would like to say is, Malonza, Penina Malonza tried to express herself, but it looks very difficult. But that should not deter her from being given this position. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, let me say thank you very much. May God bless this House. Thank you.
MP for Lugari. MP for Lugari. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for affording me this opportunity. And Mr. Speaker, being my maiden speech, I expect 10 minutes. I want, first of all, to congratulate you, Mr. Speaker, for finding yourself on the Speaker's panel, and congratulate Senator Wetangula for being elected the Speaker of this House. I also want to take opportunity to congratulate my colleagues who are here with me for being voted in to be members of the 13th Parliament. I would like to congratulate my people of Lugari for giving me an opportunity to serve as their member of National Assembly. Equally, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate my party and the party leader Raila Amolo Odinga for staying the course of change, for staying the course of democracy, for ensuring that this country is reaping the fruits of devolution. Mr. Speaker, whereas we are here celebrating democracy, I come from a constituency that has been discriminated. In 2008, the then President Mwai Kibaki laid a foundation to tarmac a road, C42, that comes from Tarbo to Sekhendu. To date, no single point of a kilometer has been tarmacked. I come from a constituency, Mr. Speaker, that in 1992, the then President Moi gave people land together with the people of Manzini, but the people of Lugari are still staying as squatters as that land has not been gazetted from the forest. That is how unfair this government has been to the people of Lugari. Mr. Speaker, looking at the list we have been provided with today of nominees, I first of all want to congratulate the committee. But I find fault in the following: that we have been provided with a list of nominees that goes contrary to the Constitution of Kenya. I cannot see a youth in that list. I cannot see a person with disability in that list. Mr. Speaker, if we become a house to rubber stamp things that we know constitutionally are wrong, history is going to charge us. Mr. Speaker, when I look at that list, and I'm looking at my fellow members of parliament of female gender, contributing here, supporting a name of a person who attempted to get carnal knowledge of a woman without her consent, I cry. Mr. Speaker, when I look at that list, Mr. Speaker, as I look at that list, and I see people glorifying a nominee simply because she came from a humble background.
What's your point
How
of
many
order?
of these people come from a humble background?
Order. This is the maiden speech of Honorable Nabi.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you,
And
Mr.
it shall be
Speaker.
heard in silence. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
I proceed, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Honorable members, order, please. Honorable member, could you take your seat? Proceed, Honorable Nabi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to comment on one Aisha Jumwa. Mr. Speaker, I've seen a copy of an affidavit of a poor woman, a poor Kenyan, whom the nominee grabbed the land, and here we are talking about, oh, she came from a humble background. What about that poor woman whose land has been taken? What do we do with that woman? Mr. Speaker, I'm pained today that this house is debating a list that has somebody with 35 cases. The question of integrity goes beyond being proven guilty or innocent. It is a question of conscience. It is a question of perception. Surely, what are we going to tell our children? That a person, when we had so many millions of Kenyans who didn't have cases, the best we could get is a person with 35 cases? I cry. I cry. This nation, my brothers, yes, we can howl, we can shout, but I can tell you, tomorrow we look you into the eye and tell you that you voted for a person who is criminally conflicted. Mr. Speaker, that does not mean we don't have good people on that list. I support vehemently the nomination of one Murkomen, a legal mind, a man who understands what he really wants to do for this country, a man who demonstrated his vision of what the transport sector should be. That is what we want to see. I want to support when I see a lady like Wahome, somebody who can demonstrate what she's thinking about in terms of water. But can we say that of that one Malonza? My answer is no. If you cannot demonstrate the vision you have, then you do not know what you want to go and do. As a HR expert, I want to tell you this. The reason we have face-to-face interview is for you to tell us what you can do. If you can't demonstrate, you will not make other people do it. You don't know it. How will you make others do it? I want to urge my colleagues, a cabinet is beyond community. Because if we were to talk about our tribes, then I don't see a Tachoni there. Then I don't see an Ogiek there. It is about Kenya. So I'm urging our colleagues who are retreating to tribal cocoons to desist that. We are looking for a cabinet that will help the president deliver. All of us, on both sides, we agree that we want a working nation. We want a working country. We want an effective cabinet. So please, as we look at these names, we need to ask the question, if I looked at you in the eye, would you meet the Caesar's transport? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, we will have the Honorable Mbadi, followed by the Honorable Faith of Nyandarua, and the MP, order, and the MP for Kiamba, and MP for Manyata, in that order.
Thank you,
Order.
Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important motion on approval of nominees to the Cabinet Secretary positions. Mr. Speaker, if there is any singular responsibility that has been bestowed onto this House, it is that of approving the Cabinet. In other jurisdictions, Mr. Speaker, this responsibility is given to Senate. If you go to the United States of America, it is the Senate that is tasked with this responsibility. In Kenya, we decided in our own wisdom to give it to the House of Representatives. And therefore, we are expected and required to make decisions to carry out our tasks in a way that would respect the people of Kenya and in a way that represents their interests. Mr. Speaker, what is required of us as a House is to approve these members based on their suitability to hold these positions. If you look at the nominees, I want to agree that yes, there are some names in that list. Out of the 24, there are individuals you can pick out and say have the competence, have the capacity, have the professional competence and academic competence, including experience, that they would use to execute their functions. I would mention that the nominee for the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Honorable Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, has the capacity, if it's given opportunity, to deliver and perform the functions that are bestowed on that office. There are also other names I would mention. I would mention the name of Honorable Duale, everybody has been mentioning. We know the work ethics of Duale.
Yes,
he has experience as a former member.
What is the point of order, Chepkonga? Give Honorable Chepkonga the mic.
Yeah, please, don't.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I don't intend to oppose my very good friend, the Honorable Mbadi. He is speaking very wisely today. Except that, Mr. Speaker, we had a motion yesterday in which you ruled, and you know we are a house of rules, and there has not been a change. It was decided yesterday, and you authorized, Mr. Speaker, that we are going to debate for 5 hours up to 11 a.m. this morning. Mr. Speaker, it is now 11:01 adding to 02, Mr. Speaker. Since you've made a ruling and there has not been any motion of enlargement, would I be in order, Mr. Speaker, that you call the mover to reply?
Order, honorable members. I will allow the Honorable Mbadi to finish his submission, then I'll give you direction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have also mentioned that Honorable Duale, I think everybody has been speaking about how Duale has the work ethics. Duale has been majority leader for about 7 years. He has served even as assistant minister. I agree that Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen is versatile. He may not have the experience in that ministry that he has been charged with, but he is versatile. I know he can adopt. There are others like Eliudo Wallo, people who have not worked in government, but through experience in terms of consultancy, he can get into that ministry and perform. Tuya, I can't overemphasize. Kithure Kindiki, misplaced, but intelligent enough, he can adjust. Speaker Muturi, I am sure, will deliver. But Mr. Speaker, looking at this cabinet in totality, I have my fears. We are approving, if we do approve, we are approving a cabinet that is not so competent. We are approving a cabinet that I think the mindset of the appointing authority was not on service delivery. This is not a cabinet that is going to bring economic revolution in this country. This is not a cabinet that is going to have Kenya take off from a middle-income economy. This is a cabinet that lacks competence, integrity in many aspects. So what was informing the appointment of these members to the cabinet? If you can have Aisha Jumwa tasked with the responsibility of reforming our civil service, which has challenges, I fear that is not something that is going to work. This is a cabinet that was informed by political expediency. The president has actually appointed 2027 campaign managers, regional campaign managers. The president is simply telling us that we give him a cabinet that is not going to function because he's ready to run the entire government system, machinery, and structure from State House using advisors. Otherwise, we would not have a cabinet that we have today. The cabinet is deficient in terms of academic, in terms of professional competence, in terms of experience, in terms of integrity. Many people with cases. Look at the case of Davis Chirchir, Mr. Speaker. This is the same gentleman who was removed from office in 2015. Removed from office on matters of corruption. This gentleman, how many Kenyans, if you ask them today, would remember that he was holding the docket of energy? Very few, meaning he left no impact in that ministry. And then you are leaving a lady you have already appointed to the cabinet called Rebecca Miano, who has enough experience, expertise, knowledge, capacity to run the Ministry of Energy, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order from Chepkonga.
What is the point of order? It's just argument. Point of argument, you're wasting my time.
Mr. Speaker, you know, Honorable Mbadi knows that I know the law. I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 83, as read together with Standing Order number 91, on the accuracy of your information. Mr. Speaker, would it be in order for Honorable Mbadi, who has been sitting in this house, he knows that Mr. Chirchiri was never charged in any court of law. He was removed in a very capricious manner. He cannot quote any case here. He is just bringing some market talk from outside. Mr. Speaker, he is under an obligation to be accurate. If he thinks that somebody is corrupt, he should give us, in any event you had the government the last time, you should have charged him in a court of law. But you cannot just come and engage in a market talk here, in a serious house, Honorable Mbadi. For goodness sake, please, quote a case in which Honorable Chirchir has been convicted or has been charged with an offense.
Honorable Mbadi.
You know, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Chepkonga is lucky that Chepkut is no longer there. He would lose in the next election. Mr. Speaker, the threshold, Mr. Speaker, the threshold under Chapter 6 is higher than cases being in court and such like, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the threshold for approval in this House, we are not a court of law. In this House, we are approving you based on your capacity to hold office. Look at the lady Penina. She is being disapproved simply because she could not talk properly in the committee. And you are telling me that a name that has been brought here by none other than the president as having been mentioned in matters corruption, that person is as clean as cotton. Mr. Speaker, let us be serious. Even if, and I've never been in government except in 2008 to 2013 when I was in Nusumukati government. I have never been in government since that time, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, we have a choice to make either decision to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk. Let us not interfere with it. We give it to him. He has asked for it. Let us give him his cabinet. We know he's going to run the government from State House. These are not people who can run a government. Apart from a few individuals who are not even more than 8, the rest are incompetent, unqualified, have integrity issues, are people who cannot deliver this country from where it is to the next level that we want the country to move in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will oppose most of the names.
Your time is up. Honorable members, before we move on further, allow me to acknowledge some schools that are up in the gallery, in the public gallery. Serare School from Kajiado County, St. Peter's Clever Secondary School from Makueni, Karaia Primary School from Kiambu County, Antenna School from Machakos County, Kihate Girls from Nyeri County, and Chebilati Mixed from Bometi County. On my behalf and on your behalf, I welcome the schools and the students to the House of Parliament. Now, honorable members, we had agreed yesterday that this was a time-bound motion, a special motion. We expanded the timing from the ordinary 3 hours to 5 hours, which are now spent, and I'll now invite the mover to reply. Thereafter, I'll give you direction on how we are going to vote. The mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And before I reply, Honorable Speaker, since I have about 15 minutes, I wanted to donate a few minutes. Honorable Speaker, one to the Honorable Kangogo, at least 2 minutes each. The Honorable Wangwe, 2 minutes. The Honorable Abdul Mandera South, 2 minutes. The Honorable Faith Gitao, 2 minutes. And Honorable Sigei, 2 minutes.
Can you repeat the names?
Honorable Kyunjuri, 2
Majority.
minutes.
Can you repeat the names for my record?
The Honorable Faith Gitao.
You started with Kangogo.
Yeah, Honorable Kangogo.
Wangwe.
Honorable Wangwe.
3.
Honorable Abdul Mandera South. Honorable Faith Gitao. Honorable Sigei. And Honorable Kyunjuri. Wangwe is in Azimio.
How many minutes are you donating to each one of them?
Say 1.5 each.
Okay.
1.5 each.
Start with Kangogo. You have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity first to thank the people of Marakwet East for giving me a third term. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I want to support all the nominees by the President. Mr. Speaker, looking at the nominees, you can see that all the regions are represented. The gender balance is addressed. And Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the President for making sure that even those parts of the country which didn't devote to Kenya Kwanza are included in his government. Mr. Speaker, I also want to join other colleagues, members of parliament who are here, who are in support of Penina Malonza. Mr. Speaker, I want to say all the nominees who are in that list are equal to their tasks. Mr. Speaker, I had some of our colleagues here who are accusing some of the nominees, especially Penina, and some of them even they don't have the qualification the nominee has. Mr. Speaker, I want to support that we, as Kenya Kwanza, we support and empower women, Mr. Speaker. I want also to thank my Majority Leader for giving me these 2 minutes, Mr. Speaker, and also take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, because I had not spoken in this 13th Parliament, to congratulate you for your election as our Speaker. Thank you.
Wangwe. Wangwe is not there. The Honorable Abdul. Ichungwa, you're out of order. Honorable Abdul.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity. First of all, I'll take you from the rest of most of the honorable members to vote for Honorable Malonza. I think it is not fair to subject her to a criteria which is not subjected to the rest of the nominees, and I think Honorable Malonza should be approved by this House as a nominee for tourism. Looking at the report and looking at especially the general and sector-specific questions that was asked to some of the nominees, I also noted Honorable Duale perhaps was asked one of the most awkward questions, whether he will be conflicted in performing his role as a CS defense in case of insurgency of Al-Shabaab. I don't know why that specific question was raised to Honorable Duale, which subjected him to trying to prove his Kenyanness, that he's Kenyan first before and also a Somali by tribe. I think that was a very awkward question. And the question on paragraph 229 to Honorable Mutua, the nominee for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, was a good one, especially on the plight of Kenyan migrants and workers.
Time is up. Honorable Faith Gitau.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for granting me this opportunity to offer my line of thoughts regarding the report as presented to this House by the Committee of Appointment. I want to congratulate this committee for professionalism portrayed during the vetting. Clearly, it could not have been done better. Well done, colleagues. I watched most of the vetting process, and I must say all nominees came out as pragmatists, very practical, very focused, and goal-oriented. They articulated very well. They are short.
Your time is up. Honorable Sigei. You have 1.5 minutes. Use your time well.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to first start by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to talk today. And secondly, I want to say I am privileged to talk here in front of my school, Chabilat from Bomet. They are here in the house, and I think they will take the message home that Sigai talked in their presence. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to mention these two things. Number one, I want to thank the committee for a good job done. Number two, I want to say that this house is not a court of law, and hence we wait for whatever is going to be done in the court so that we can discuss these issues. For now, I am proposing we pass all these nominees. And thirdly, I want to express my sympathy to Penina Malonza. I am a father, and I was shocked the way that lady was harassed. I want to say, even the family, I don't think they slept. So I simply...
Order, Honorable Sigei. That is not a statement of fact. Honorable Sigei, that is not a statement of fact. Nobody was harassed. The Speaker chaired the committee. The fact that people didn't answer questions properly doesn't mean it was harassment. Injury, it is over for you, Honorable Sigei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you are aware, all of us, Mr. Speaker, are not yet settled because at the end of the day, we don't have substantive ministers. We need ministers where we know they are fully in office, where we can present our problems. Already there are so many problems facing this country. Like right now, the issue of drought. You don't know where to go and address because the president cannot be everywhere. The president alone cannot run this government. Mr. Speaker, I've been charged 17 times before I became a member of parliament, and all those cases, none of them could stand the test of time. Mr. Speaker, we cannot judge as members of parliament because we already judge out there. And we have to give people opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to be heard at any level so that at least, Mr. Speaker, it is not about regimes that are going to judge us. If these people had been judged during the regime of Mwai Kibaki, then we can say there is a bit of fairness. Some of us have been taken through DCI 9 times, Mr. Speaker, left free, and even today none of our cases have ever been, we have never been charged, but 9 times dragged through the DCI offices. Mr. Speaker, it's not fair that members who are seated here, who knew how the regime that was there operated, can be sitting here.
Time up. The mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, let me just take this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to thank all the members. The Honorable Wango is bowing, but he's lost his opportunity. To thank all the members of this House, Honorable Speaker, for their very good contributions, and listening to all the contributions by many members, it's clear that the House, to a large extent, does agree with the committee in terms of the recommendations made, especially on the approvals. And Honorable Speaker, I've also had numerous members speak on the rejection, the one rejection, and the reservations that were expressed by the minority in their minority report, Honorable Speaker. And maybe just to pick up from where the Honorable Kinjuri has left, Honorable Speaker, it is indeed true that people have been charged in this country with crimes that they have not committed. And indeed, Honorable Speaker, besides being charged, there are people, and we've all witnessed in the last few weeks, people who have lost their lives out of actions of omission or commission by the former regime, Honorable Speaker. And we know what kind of country we are living in under the previous regime, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, I really want to implore on the House, as the Honorable Mwangi Kinjuri has said, that even himself, before he became minister, he had been charged numerous times. The Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Linturi...
I'll give you 2 minutes to wind up.
The Honorable Linturi, Honorable Speaker, did indicate that all the cases I stated yesterday that he has in court are civil cases. And the only criminal case that he had already been withdrawn, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, I really want to ask the House to support the committee's report. As I said yesterday, Honorable Speaker, the committee expressed itself on Penina Malonza, but the decision, the ultimate decision, lies in this House. And Honorable Speaker, I really want to ask the House to make an informed decision based on the debate that has transpired here, Honorable Speaker, and the information that is already in your hands in the report. And with that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to reply and ask all members to, in a very bipartisan manner, support all these nominees to allow His Excellency the President to go ahead, swear them in, and form government so that they may start the work of serving the people of Kenya. We all went through a vigorous campaign, and our constituents are waiting for service from government. And we are all, I'm sure we're all going to be ready to hold to account all these cabinet secretaries once they are sworn in. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to reply.
Honorable members, before I put the question, we will vote on this motion as follows. Once I put the question, you will vote on a voice vote on numbers, nominees numbers 1 to 21 as one vote. You will then vote on nominee Roman 2, the appointed Attorney General. You will then vote on the nominee Roman 3, Mercy Wanjau, Secretary of the Cabinet. Then you will vote on the rejection of Penina Malonza, Roman 4. Depending on how you vote on Roman 4, I'll then give you further direction. I now put the question. So I'll read up to 21, ask you to vote. Then we go to Roman 2, you vote. Roman 3, you vote. Then Roman 4, you vote. Honorable members, I now put the question. Can the members at the bar take their seats? Members, take your seats quickly. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. We'll now put the question. Before I put the question, allow me, members, to also acknowledge the presence in the public gallery of Precious Blood Girls High School from Kiambu County. We all welcome them to the House of Parliament. Honorable members, I now put the question that taking into consideration the findings of the Committee on Appointments in its first report on the vetting of nominees for approval as Cabinet Secretaries, the Secretary of the Cabinet and the Attorney General laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, October 24th, 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 152.2, 154.2a, and 156.2 of the Constitution, and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House, 1, approves the appointment of the following persons as Cabinet Secretaries. The Honorable Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi, EGH, Office of the Prime Cabinet Minister. The Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Interior and National Administration. The Honorable Professor Njuguna Ndungu, CBS, Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning. The Honorable Alice Mudhoni Wahome, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. The Honorable Rebecca Miano, MBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of East African Community, the ASALs and Regional Development. The Honorable Alfred Nganga Mutua, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora. The Honorable Aisha Jumwa Katana, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action. The Honorable Moses K. Kuria, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Trade, Investment and Industry. The Honorable Rosalinda Soipan Tuya, CBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Environment and Forestry. The Honorable Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Roads, Transport and Public Works. Mr. Sakaria Mwangi Njeru, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Ms. Susan Nahumicha Wafula, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Health. The Honorable Franklin Mithika Linturi, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Mr. Eliud Okech Owalo, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy. The Honorable Ezekiel Machogu Ombaki, CBS, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education. Mr. Davis Kimutai Chirchir, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Energy and Petroleum. The Honorable Ababu Namwamba, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts. Mr. Simon Kiprono Chelugui, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, MSME Development. The Honorable Salim Mvuria, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Mining, the Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. The Honorable Florence Chepngetich Kosgei Bore, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Labor and Social Protection. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say no? Yes. The ayes have it. The next is to call upon you on that the House approves the appointment of the Honorable Justin Bedan Njoka Muturi, EGH, as the Attorney General. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. The next is to call upon you. Can the members at the bar take their seats? Order, honorable members. The next is to call upon the House that the House approves the appointment of Ms. Mercy Kiiru Wanjau. Order. The House approves the appointment of Ms. Mercy Kiiru Wanjau, CBS, as the Secretary of the Cabinet. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. And the last vote, order, honorable members. The last vote is that the House rejects the appointment of the Honorable Penina Malonza, OGW, as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it. Now, all the honorable members, the upshot the upshot of that vote, honorable members, is that you have approved the appointment of all the nominees up to Mercy Kiiru Wanjau. You have negatived the rejection of Penina Malonza. This means Penina Malonza is now in purgatory. She's neither in heaven nor in hell. She's in purgatory. Now, the next move on Penina Malonza, I have received and approved a motion by the Honorable Irene Kasalu. She wants to move the House now to decide whether to shift Penina Malonza from purgatory to hell or to heaven. And I will now give her an opportunity to move the motion. Once she moves the motion, we have a seconder. Order, honorable members, order. Once she moves the motion, we have a seconder. Once we have a seconder, I want to encourage the House that you have overventilated on this matter. You allow the chair to put the question after proposing the question. Is the Honorable Kasalu in the House? I invite you now to move your motion in not more than 10 minutes. And your seconder will be allotted 5 minutes. You can go ahead, the Honorable Kasalu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And in the view of the decision of the House today, with respect to the motion on the approval of appointment of Hon. Penina Malonza, OGW, as a Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, and the requirement for...
Sorry, Honorable Kasalu, I think we have jumped the gun. First, give notice of your motion. Thereafter, I'll then allow you to move it. Then it gets seconded and we move as guided. So first give notice of the motion.
So I just read that to you.
Just start by saying I give notice of the following motion, then read the motion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I give notice of motion for the approval of appointment of Hon. Penina Malonza, OGW, as a Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Kasalu, now you may proceed to...
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And in the view of the House decision today, with respect to the motion on the approval of appointment of Hon. Penina Malonza, OGW...
Honorable Kasalu, when you move your motion, you start by saying, I move the following motion.
Thank you, Honorable
Then you
Speaker.
read the motion as it is, then go on to elucidate what you want to say.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand guided. And Honorable Speaker, I move the following motion, that in the view of the decision of the House today, with respect to the motion on the approval of appointment of Honorable Penina Malonza, OGW, as a Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage, and the requirement for an unequivocal decision of the National Assembly on such matters, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Article 152(2) of the Constitution and Section 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Act of 2011, that this House approves the appointment of the Hon. Penina Malonza, OGW, as the Cabinet Secretary for the Tourism, Wildlife and Heritage. Honorable Speaker, allow me to say that I want to thank the people of Kitui for electing me for the second time. And I must say that I had a worthy opponent by the name Hon. Penina Malonza. And having her as my opponent, I can only say good words about her. Penina Malonza is a brave woman. This lady decided to vie for women in Kitui County on a UDA ticket, despite the area being a wiper zone. And the people of Kitui actually voted for her with a lot of votes. And I think she's the only candidate for Mukambani who vied on UNDA who got the highest votes. Penina Malonza is a woman of integrity. She has not been charged in any court in this country on any issue. Penina Malonza is well schooled, and it is an appointment of what many girls on this country would aspire to get academically. Penina Malonza has a working history. She was the last deputy governor for Kitui County when Malombe was the governor. And it's during this time the duo delivered for the people of Kitui, and a lot of development were done in Kitui County. Penina Malonza is being looked at by all the people of Kitui County. I'm sure, Speaker, you have heard of the many bandits attacking the Kitui County. And Penina Malonza comes from one of those areas that is Mother Ward. And the people of Kitui are looking upon her. Once this nomination has gone through and she's has gone through and she become the CS for tourism, wildlife and heritage, that she's be able to sort the issue of the bandit attack. So with these few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to call upon Dr. Pukose of Debes Constituency to second the motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I second first before the point of order.
Honorable member, Dr. Bukosa, take your seat. What is out of order, honorable member? Give him the mic, please. Give the honorable member the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And first, I'm not talking about the rejection of Honorable Penina. We support her. But Honorable Irene Kasalu talked about that Honorable Penina will sort out the issue of bandit attacks
Honorable
in Kitui.
member, you are out of order.
So
take
the point we are talking about...
Take your seat, honorable member. You are grossly out of order. Honorable Dr. Bukose, you can proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to second
Honorable
the motion.
For order, Honorable Bukose, for avoidance of any such incidents in future, honorable members, especially for our new colleagues, you stand on a point of order when a colleague is on the floor, on the feet, and has breached some standing order. Number two, I and the panelists of the Speaker's chair will, going forward, demand to know which standing order has been breached when you say point of order, so that you don't come under the guise of point of order and embark on a totally different misadventure. Thirdly, when you want to raise a point of order, the member against whom you are raising must still be on the floor. Once the member has left the floor, you cannot raise a point of order about what they were saying. Honorable Bukose, you have 5 minutes or less.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to second the motion by Honorable Irene Kasalu on that this House approves the appointment of Penina Malonza as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. Honorable Speaker, today morning we were having a cup of tea and discussing with Honorable Nzengu, member for Mwingi North, among others. And at times you look at the cabinet secretary is supposed to be in charge of policy, not technical. And I ask the member, if you are bitten by a snake, where do you report? It's supposed to be you report to the police station, get a P3 form, then go and see a doctor. Once you've seen a doctor, the doctor feels the extent of your injuries. But I know many of you didn't know that. So we should not be able to ask, at times we ask so technical questions, but somebody with that level of education will be able to learn. Let's give this lady an opportunity to be able to deliver to this country as a cabinet secretary for tourism, wildlife, and national heritage. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I beg to propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Article 152(2) of the Constitution and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Penina Malonza OGW as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. I will now put the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Articles 152(2) of the Constitution and Sections 3 and 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, this House approves the appointment of the Honorable Penina Malonza OGW as the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, Wildlife, and Heritage. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order. Will now, honorable members, go back to the motion of the member for Lurambi, the Honorable Titus Hamala. You had moved your motion. Now we want your seconder. Who is your seconder?
In fact,
Mudenyo.
alikuwa amemove, eh?
Okay. Rachel.
Are we still proceeding with the same? Order number 10, motion, review of teacher deployment policy. We continue with the same list, yeah?
Honorable members, we shall proceed to the business of the House. And before I give the Honorable Wundo to second the motion, I wish to welcome a delegation from the German Parliament, the Honorable His Excellency Sebastian Groth, Ambassador, the Honorable Hermann Freber, the Honorable Suzanne Mittag, the Honorable Rita Hagel-Kell, the Honorable Arthur Unama, the Honorable Albert Stegemann, the Honorable Karl Beer, the Honorable Ingo Bocke, the Honorable Peter Felser, and the Honorable Ina Latendorf. Their delegation are in the country on the invitation of by Honorable Joshua Kandie, the MP for Baringo Central Constituency. We wish to invite them to the House and wish them good deliberations and stay in the country. You are welcome. Honorable members, I wish to give this chance to the Honorable Wundo to second the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And on the onset, let me sincerely congratulate you as my neighbor for having been appointed to sit in the Speaker's panel and preside over this session. Honorable Speaker, let me also take this opportunity before I formally second the motion to thank the people of Funyula constituency for giving me a chance to serve them as their Member of Parliament for a second term, 2022-2027. It is a great honor to serve them for the second term, and that's a testimony for the good work we did, I and my team, in the first term. Second, let me also take this opportunity to sincerely thank the people of Busia for electing Dr. Paul Nyong'o Otuoma as the governor of Busia, and in totality now, we are able to showcase the dominance of ODM in Busia County as we forge the next level. Honorable Speaker, as we stand here today, Honorable Titus Hamala, Bishop, has presented to us a matter that has been a topic of extensive debate in our constituencies, in our villages, and in this country. And that debate has been the impact, the policy impact of the localization, i.e. to mean moving teachers from their local areas to go and teach and offer services to the various parts of this country. Granted that teachers are public servants, and once you get employed as a public servant, you are duty-bound to serve this country in any station and any capacity as long as it's within some basic human rights and basic tenets of good governance. Honorable Speaker, teachers are extremely important members of this society. They shape attitudes, they shape society, they make us who we are here. None of us will be here if it wasn't for the immense impact of the teacher that brought us where we are here. We also appreciate that Kenya It's one country whereby we must have extensive exchange of ideas, culture, so that we build one unequivocal or one undivided country called Kenya. I'm privileged to have gone to Jumwa Primary School. I'm privileged to have come to Starehe Boys Center and School. And that sojourn from the village to Nairobi opened up my mind to appreciate and understand the entire culture of the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, we must also appreciate and understand that teachers offer labor services. And they're offering their labor services are guided by the rules and regulations of ILO and other labor institutions. Consequently, even as has provided in the Constitution, any decision that affects somebody, that person who is likely to be affected ought to have a direct impact, a direct contribution to that such kind of momentous decision. Honorable Speaker, in the 5 years as an MP, many teachers came to complain to me, Honorable Speaker, I have a sick mother, I have a sick spouse, I have small children who attend school here, I've been transferred to faraway lands. I do not know what I'm going to do. Honorable Speaker, many have also come to me, especially lady teachers, asking me, Mheshimiwa, I have been transferred very away from my husband, but the way I look at my husband, this could be the end of the marriage. Honorable Speaker, and that's why it is extremely important, Honorable Speaker, that the policy of delocalization, however noble, however well-intentioned it is, requires a further rethink, a further review. And that's why, as we stand here today, we might not necessarily oppose in totality, but we call upon the Teacher Service Commission and the Education CS to literally look at the matter in a holistic manner, come up with very clear criteria. As Bishop Hamala said yesterday, it's untenable, it's unacceptable, and it's manifestly unfair to transfer a 55-year-old man from his place of abode, where he has lived all those years, take him far away land, where he has nobody there, he has no friends there, he cannot learn new tricks, he cannot learn new ideas. You can't teach an old dog any new ideas. Forcing the man at such an age to stand out scrapping sufrias to cook food for himself is sincerely demeaning that kind of a man. Taking away a man from the hot climate of Ugenya, take him to Limuru to go live and sleep alone in the deliberating cold. Honestly speaking, Honorable Speaker, we are not being unfair to that particular man or that particular woman teacher. That's why as we stand here today, it is important that TSC, the ministry, sits down and sets very clear criteria. Where I sit, Honorable Speaker, if the ministry and TSC cared to ask, would essentially request that after a certain age, there shouldn't be such kind of harsh transfers. Those transfers should only start, the localization should only apply to the new teachers that are coming into service. A newly graduate should be allowed to explore this country. A new graduate should be allowed to know other places, learn other cultures. A new graduate should be able to interact and also learn something new, just like they do in the police services and in the civil services. As you tend towards retirement, you are taken closer home where you can be taken care of. You are taken closer home where you can learn how to live with the people. Because once you retire, you require those villagers, you require those relatives, you require those high school friends. So in that score, Honorable Speaker, I support and I hope the new CS, having been a DC in Busia, understands the administrative issues, will address this particular issue. I stand to second. Thank you.
Honorable members, I wish to propose the motion that aware that education is a key enabler of national development and realization of Kenya's Vision 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, appreciating the invaluable role that teachers play in actualizing the national goals of education, noting that a conducive working environment for teachers enhances performance, recalling that the localization of teachers commenced in 2018 by the TSC immensely disrupted teachers' lives, lowered teacher morale, and caused untold trauma to many teachers countrywide. Concerned that the exercise was not supported with a clear policy framework and was initiated without the participation of teachers or their unions, contrary to Articles 118 and 132 of the Constitution on public participation and involvement of the people in the process of policy making, cognizant of the fact that delocalization of teachers is inconsistent with the UNESCO teacher deployment practice, which treats education as a culture process conducted within a people's cultural context at the local level. This House resolves that the Teacher Service Commission immediately reverses the ongoing delocalization of teachers and initiates a comprehensive review of the teacher deployment policy with the involvement of the teachers in order to make the policy consistent with the ILO and UNESCO laws and practices on teacher management and deployment. And the first person to have a bite on the cherry on this motion would be the Honorable John Gitonga of Manyata.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to support this motion. First, I would like to say and congratulate the member, Honorable Titus Hamala MP, for coming up with this motion at the right time, especially when we are constituting a new government. Honorable Speaker, we are aware that we have just passed the whole list of CSs. Among them is the CS for education. I would like to say that myself, and I always tell everybody that I'm a product of teachers. If it were not for teachers, Gitonga Mukunji would not be here in this house today. I'm also a son-in-law to teachers. And Honorable Speaker, this issue of transfer of teachers is a controversial issue. Whenever we agree that the ministry, the TSC, can take the teacher to any part of this country, regardless of the pain that that family will go through, it is a sad state. I would like to say that it is important we put in policy that is going to guide the issue of delocalization of teachers. There should be a comprehensive consultation, public participation, and inclusion when it comes to the issue of delocalization of teachers. I have had myself, in my few months of being an MP, a lot of phone calls from teachers in my constituency requesting me they would like a transfer back to their constituency of birth, where their family is. Honorable Speaker, that means that this process of delocalization of teachers has been misused. We have had even people who fall out with principals being transferred as a way of punishing them. Honorable Speaker, we have to put it right for the sake of our teachers. We have in mind that even the payment in terms of hardship allowances for our lovely teachers that are holding our children and the children of this country, Honorable Speaker, they are paid peanuts. This assembly should stand firm on protecting and ensuring that our teachers feel they have an assembly that thinks of them. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying this having in mind the crisis we have of shortage of teachers. Areas like Northeastern, Honorable Speaker, and many areas of this country suffer from lack of teachers in some schools. It is the high point the government tries to improve this profession. It is a high time we hire more teachers, and I'm happy, Honorable Speaker, that the government and the President announced a while back that in January is going to do a serious recruitment of new teachers so that we can have our institutions having enough teachers to teach them. The secondary schools, especially the day secondary schools, and Honorable Speaker, I believe, and in my own opinion, that the future of education in this country, especially secondary schools, lies in our day schools. Those are schools that mostly you'll find no school with more than 10 teachers. And then you find some of the teachers are teaching more than 10 subjects because of the fact that there are very few. Honorable Speaker, I would like to have this motion, and while we are constituting this policy, we should have a comprehensive look at the staffing of our schools so that we can have everybody, anybody who takes a kid to school, being happy that there are teachers that are going to teach them and ensure that they are okay. Honorable Speaker, while we are talking about the localization of teachers, we need to have a consideration and ensure that when a teacher is transferred, if he is not comfortable with that, he should have a good channel to be able to say no. And he should have a chance to be heard. So I would like to contribute and say I support this motion. And Honorable Speaker, I'll continue contributing to ensure our schools are well equipped, our teachers are happy, so that we continue having a country that is going to have people who are going to school. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well done, thank you. This chance now goes to the Honorable Mugambi Lindikiri of Buuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this motion by Honorable Titus Kamala. I think it has come the right time, Mr. Speaker. But before I do that, I want to congratulate you, Speaker, for your elevation to the Speaker's panel. And I know you fit, and I know you perform. Mr. Speaker, this issue of delocalization is a very emotive to our teachers, the people that we value very much. Mr. Speaker, I remember the first time delocalization came, it came and was seen as a disciplinary action by TSC. Because in my constituency body, the people who are targeted were the teacher leaders, the ones who are members of NAT, the ones who are members of KEMSHA, and those are the ones that were transferred. We did not view it as part of the TSC business of doing things, and from that perspective, I strongly feel that we need a policy. Mr. Speaker, TSC has become TSC headquarters has become an animal by itself. When everybody is talking about delocalization of services to the basic units, TSC headquarters has taken over recruitment process and promotion process of our teachers. And everything is now being controlled from TSC headquarters. Meaning, this institution is being run without consultation. Mr. Speaker, for the last 4 years, hiring of teachers, the only thing that the county education, the TSC directors will do, together with DCC, is only to recommend. They can only recommend hiring, they can only recommend promotions, and everything is sent to the headquarters. And this is where now we are seeing, you find they will come now and transfer teachers. In my constituency, Mr. Speaker, for the last 5 years, I've been in this parliament the last 5 years, there is no single senior teacher who has been promoted. No single senior teacher has been promoted. But we saw an influx of teachers from other counties being given opportunity to serve as teachers without even going through the process of deputy teacher. To me, and to my colleagues here, TSC is an animal which is not serving the interest of the teaching profession in this country. And we must condemn their actions. Mr. Speaker, I want to put it on record that my constituents worry. I have so many teachers who have never been promoted, and I don't see the end of the light of the tunnel as long as the animal sitting at the headquarters is there. Something must be done. Mr. Speaker, if there is no policy, I agree. When I was recruited, I was told, when I finished university, I was told, I can serve in any part of the country. TSC, they have said you can. But you have no policy to determine. If you tell me I'm going to serve as an teacher for 10 years in this school, then why do you delocalize me after 3 years? Mr. Speaker, we really need to be serious with education in this country. And the TSC is always in conflict with the ministry. It has assumed powers that it can do things without public participation. And this has happened particularly the current secretary of TSC, Madam Mrs. Macharia, operating alone in an ivory tower up there. They don't come to the counties, they don't come to schools. We have so many cases of non-performing teachers. And the TSC does not come to find out exactly what is happening. Instead, they'll transfer the teacher to Ukambani from Meru, the coldest part of this country. Mr. Speaker, I think it's the high time that we seek education in this country seriously. Very seriously. We need an interactive opportunity between our teachers and our children. I have nothing against somebody coming from Northeastern to come and teach in our schools. But you can't have all the teachers from one place in my local school. How are these people going to interact with the children? Mr. Speaker, if you study the history of education in Finland, you will find a very serious feeding program which is blended by teaching professionals. Mr. Speaker, there are so many teachers who have done degrees. There are many teachers in primary schools who have done masters, and some of them are pursuing PhD. Ironically, TSC seems to be dead on that. They are dumb on that. Surely, you put a lot of initiative and nobody recognizes that. The only thing when you complain, you are transferred to Northeastern. You are transferred to Samburu. You are transferred to Turkana. Yet you are asking to be given an opportunity as somebody who has upgraded himself or herself. Mr. Speaker, it's the high time that we look at the entire structure of TSC, because the government has a responsibility. They have become an animal and they need to be shaped to conform to the requirement of our basic child, because that's the reason why the school is there. Let's not transfer teachers for the sake of discipline, for the sake of being seen to be moving teachers. There must be a very serious reason. I sympathize and empathize with a 59-year-old man who was transferred from Kitui to a school in my constituency called Kirimara, the coldest part in Kenya. That man, I had to go and plead with the director of TSC for him to be taken back to where he came from. It's not fair to separate families in a long distance. There are no expenses that are paid for these cases when they are localized. It is not fair at all. Let's have a policy that is going to guide the transfer, promotion, hiring of teachers in this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much. Honorable members, if you look at your order paper for today, you realize that there is a proposed amendment to this motion under Standing Order number 54. And I wish to give the member for Chepalungu, the Honorable Victor Koech, to move his amendment. I would request him to make it short, and I hope he already has a seconder in tow so that this process moves, so that we are able to debate the motion as amended, if we are minded to amend it. The Honorable Victor Koech.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I intend to move an amendment to this particular motion by the Honorable Member, Honorable Titus. Motion on review of teacher policy, or on teacher deployment policy. I wish to move the following amendment, that now the motion be amended by rearranging the resolution of the motion as follows. This House resolves that the Teacher Service Commission, 1, immediately reverses the ongoing delocalization of teachers, and 2, initiates a comprehensive review of teacher deployment policy with the involvement of teachers in order to make the policy consistent with the International Labour Organization, ILO, and UNESCO laws and practices on teacher management and deployment, and therefore inserting the following new subparagraph: review the teachers' recruitment policy with the view of devolving it to the zonal level as the recruitment level. Mr. Speaker, I would wish to make few recommendations about the same. I am freshly from a meeting with my local teachers from the different aids, that's the capture, and the NAT. And to point but a few, Mr. Speaker, their concern is what we are representing today here at the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, you notice that initially, before 2010, that is the promulgation of the new constitution, TSC were given the independence as an independent commission. Mr. Speaker, this particular independence resulted in the TSC acting in total disregard of the well-being of the teachers. Mr. Speaker, this particular independence gave the CEO an image and appears to be a smaller goddess. Mr. Speaker, this particular independence actually made the TSC.
Honorable Koech, you're doing well, but would you move your amendment first? Because you're already debating it. Would you just move the amendment first?
I stand guided, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, just move the amendment and then ask your second to second, so that then we debate the motion together.
Thank you. I stand guided. Mr. Speaker, I therefore would wish to move the above amendments, and I wish to invite the Honorable Member for Nandi, the Honorable Cynthia Muge, to second. Thank you.
The Honorable Muge, Cynthia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Take this opportunity to second the amendment brought by Honorable Victor Koech on the motion tabled on the floor of this House by Honorable Titus Kamala. Honorable Speaker, like he has stated, that particular amendment is important to this motion, Honorable Speaker, so that the policy is looked at holistically and we are able to take back the issues that has been entrenched into the TSC. Honorable Speaker, if you remember very well, Nancy Macharia, when people were looking and talking about devolution and devolving functions and money to the smallest units, she was busy recentralizing the recruitment of teachers. Honorable Speaker, it's not only unfair, but it also doesn't serve this country. Those teachers that we're talking about are people who actually carry the aspirations of this country. They're the people who actually deal with our children each and every day. If you force them, Honorable Speaker, and you place them in places that they cannot survive using decentralization and all those kind of things, Honorable Speaker, it is not going to work. So, Honorable Speaker, I support the amendment and I also support the whole motion altogether. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Remember, I'm assuming that all of us have the amendment because you can access it. It is in today's order paper. And if you were here when I proposed the motion, I read it in total. I would now like to propose that the House adopts the amendment as moved by the Honorable Victor Koech. If that's a mood of the House, I put the question that the motion by the Honorable Hamala be amended as proposed by the Honorable Victor Koech. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. And will as many of contrary opinion say nay? Thank you so much. The amendment is carried. And members, now the motion will be debated plus the amendment. And if I may just then make it clear to you now what we'll be debating, I'll take the liberty to read the motion, the whole motion afresh. And I request you to now note the new motion so that when we debate the new motion. That aware that education is a key enabler of the national development and realization of Kenya's Vision 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, appreciating the invaluable role that teachers play in actualizing the national goals of education, noting that a conducive working environment for teachers enhances performance, recalling that the localization of teachers commenced in 2018 by the TSC immensely disrupted teachers' lives, lowered teacher morale, and caused untold trauma to many teachers countrywide. Concerned that the exercise was not supported with a clear policy framework and was initiated without the participation of teachers or their unions, contrary to Articles 118 and 132 of the Constitution on public participation and involvement of the people in the process of policy making, cognizant of the fact that the localization of teachers is inconsistent with the UNESCO teacher development practice, which treats education as a culture process conducted within a people's cultural context at the local level, this House resolves that The TSC, 1, immediately reverses the ongoing localization of teachers. 2, initiates a comprehensive review of the teacher deployment policy with the involvement of the teachers in order to make the policy consistent with the ILO and the UNESCO laws and practices on teacher management and deployment. And 3, reviews the teacher recruitment policy with a view to devolving it to zonal levels as the point of improvement. Thank you, members. And now the first chance on the motion as amended would go to the Honorable Charo Kazungu, if he's in the House.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to take this opportunity, first of all, to congratulate the men and women who have been approved here today, this morning, to serve in the cabinet. More particularly, I want to congratulate Honorable Aisha Jumwa, who comes from my own Kilifi County. She has demonstrated that if you work hard in this country, then the sky is the lower limit. She has come from a very adversarial background, but the good thing is that she has made it, and now she's serving in one of the highest offices in this country. She is an inspiration to a lot of girls from Kilifi County, and I know many are going to learn from her. Now, if I come to the motion, I want to say I support this motion on delocalization. It is very true that many teachers have suffered because they have been taken to far-flung areas without their consent. I come from Kilifi County, and I know of teachers who used to teach in Ganze, but they were taken to far-flung areas like Tana River, to Lamu, and Kwale. These teachers had very young families, but they had to leave them behind because TSC will not listen to them. I know of a teacher in Ganze who was transferred or who was delocalized to Tana River. This teacher was sickly. He was suffering from diabetes and high blood pressure. He did his best to talk to TSC to cancel the transfer, but TSC wouldn't listen. I'm sorry to say in this house that we lost the life of this teacher. It is a very sad situation, and I want to say that TSC did not give this delocalization issue a lot of thought. It was done haphazardly, and it has broken so many marriages. It has affected so many teachers. So I support the motion by Honorable Hamala and also the amendment by Honorable Victor from Chepalungu. I think TSC needs to reverse most of these transfers that they have done, especially for those who are willing. Mr. Speaker, I am married to a teacher myself. And my wife has served in the same job grade for many years. But she has been refusing to apply for promotion because she knows the moment she's promoted, she will be delocalized. She will have to leave her family, which is still very young, to go and serve in far-flung areas. But this is not the cry of my wife alone. I think this is the cry of many teachers in this country. They have to serve in the same areas because they know once they start looking for transfers, they'll be taken to areas where they don't wish to serve in. Another issue that has been affecting teachers in Ganze, especially, Ganze is a hardship area, and teachers have been getting hardship allowances. Though it is not enough, but we can say at least in Ganze, they are getting these allowances. But it has been a cry of other civil servants. There are those civil servants who serve in the Ministry of Education, but they're not teachers. They are serving in these same hardship areas, but they're not getting hardship. Only teachers are getting hardship allowance. So I've been told, I've talked to a lot of these civil servants, and it has been their prayer that when the teachers are getting hardship allowances, let the other staff who are working in the Ministry of Education also to get the hardship allowance. And this should also apply to other civil servants that are working in this hardship area, including the police. Mr. Speaker, the issue of TSC not being responsive to the issue of teachers, I think it is open knowledge. Everyone knows about it, especially those who have been in the teaching profession. It is high time now this TSC is restructured to be accommodative and to listen to the plight of many of the teachers. Teaching is a noble profession, and we know we are here. All of us we are here because we are product of teachers. But teachers have been suffering, and the employer has not been listening to their cries. It is hoped that this House is going to come with a good policy, with a clear policy that is going to make TSC look into the plight of teachers and serve them at their best. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according this opportunity, and I donate the rest of my time to the House.